The vast hall of the palace was heavy with silence, broken only by the steady ticking of the ancient clock, each second dragging like a weight on the shoulders of the billionaire sheikh. His dark eyes, sharp and commanding, flickered with a rare trace of unease. 11 lawyers had come and gone, their confident words now ghosts in the marble corridors, leaving behind nothing but defeat. Tonight, everything hung on the verge of collapse. The emirate glittered beneath the moonlight like a jewel set in endless desert sands. Golden domes rose against the starry sky, shimmering with untold riches and secrets alike. Inside, silk drapes brushed the air, perfumed by exotic spices and frankincense. The faint scent weaving through rooms filled with priceless artifacts and whispering histories. The opulence was breathtaking, yet cold. A kingdom, majestic on its surface, masked the turmoil within. In this palace of grandeur, the billionaire sheikh sat rigid on an ornate throne, a lion cloaked in silk and gold, yet vulnerable behind his veneer, his jaw clenched beneath the weight of betrayal and confusion. The legal labyrinth threatening his empire was unprecedented, the kind that unsettled even a man long accustomed to bending the world to his will. Away from the glare of his entourage and the cautious whispers of his advisors, a quiet figure moved with a calm purpose. His maid. Humble and overlooked, she carried no airs of importance, yet her eyes held a spark no luxury could buy. Others noticed only her plain dress and steady hands, but the sheikh's gaze lingered just a moment longer, a flicker of something unspoken, stirring within him. The problem was more than a simple contract dispute. 11 top lawyers had failed to uncover the truth behind a cleverly concealed betrayal, a truth that could ruin his name and destroy the alliances that held his vast fortune in place. The palace buzzed with anxious murmurs and guarded glances, but none dared cross the invisible barrier between the sheikh and his servants, except her. When the sheikh called her into the chamber, voices fell silent, the air thickened with disrespect. How could a maid hold the key where the sharpest legal minds had faltered? As she stepped forward, composed and unassuming, her mind raced through fragments unnoticed by others. Her intuition, honed by years of quiet observation, pieced together lies disguised as truth. 2 minutes, that was all it took. Her voice, calm but resolute, pointed to a detail dismissed countless times. A signature smudged, a ledger misplaced, a motive eclipsed by greed and false loyalty. She uncovered what none else could see, a conspiracy that ran deeper than courtrooms and contracts, a wound threatening to bleed the empire dry. The room froze as the billionaire sheikh's eyes widened, shock flickering to reverence. The scales of power seemed to tilt in an instant. This unassuming woman, this maid, had shattered every certainty he had. Her brilliance was a quiet thunder that cracked the foundation beneath them all. In that moment, a new understanding blossomed, one that defied caste and gold. Loyalty, intelligence, and fate intertwined in unexpected ways, promising a transformation neither could foresee. The palace walls, once symbols of separation, now echoed with the first whispers of a bond that might change everything. Before the next secret of this vast emirate unfolds, make sure you've joined our caravan of tales. Many destinies are yet to be written, and I don't want you to miss a single moment. Drop a like if the heart of this billionaire sheikh has already captured you. Tell us in the comments, where are you watching from, and what twist do you believe awaits? Your passion for these dramas inspires us to keep weaving these tales. Thank you for being with us. The heavy silence that had settled over the vast hall seemed to thicken, wrapping itself around the billionaire sheikh like a shroud. His sharp gaze remained fixed on the maid, whose calm demeanor belied the chaos unraveling in his mind. She stepped back, her voice still ringing clear in the marble chamber. The simple detail she had revealed, a smudged signature on the contract, was the crack they had all failed to perceive. A crack that threatened to undermine the fortress of his empire. For a long moment, the sheikh said nothing, eyes darkening with disbelief and grudging respect. He rose from his throne, the silk of his robes whispering against the cold floor, and paced slowly. The weight of his lineage, soon his responsibilities, and now this newfound hope pressed heavily upon him. How did you come across this? His voice was low, almost a growl, but beneath it lay an undercurrent of marvel. She bowed her head slightly, the faintest blush tinting her cheeks. I watch, Your Highness, more closely than anyone expects. The smallest details, the fleeting moments others overlook. Sometimes they hold the truth. The palace had always been a labyrinth of whispers and secrets. But for the billionaire sheikh, it was a battlefield where trust was scarce and appearances deceived. Yet here stood this unassuming woman, a beacon of clarity amid deception. He motioned sharply, and the lawyers who had been waiting silently erupted forward, gathering around her as she outlined the conspiracy. The trail she revealed wound deeper than imagined, a collusion between a trusted advisor and a rival emirate, forged in greed and betrayal. The threads of falsified documents and bribed witnesses wove a tapestry of treason that threatened to unravel all the sheikh had built. As the truth spread through the room like wildfire, a new tension blossomed, hope intertwined with lingering suspicion. The advisors exchanged wary glances, each pondering the ramifications. The maid's presence, once invisible, now demanded attention. Yet as the realization dawned upon all, a shadow settled over the sheikh's expression. His eyes, once cold and commanding, flickered with vulnerability. A silent question whether his trust had been misplaced for so long. He returned to his throne, settling down with a slow inhale. The scent of frankincense hung in the air, mingling with the faint perfume of jasmine from the courtyard, creating an almost surreal backdrop for this revelation. Marble pillars stood tall, their ornate carvings seemingly watching as a new chapter in the palace's long history unfolded. The door creaked open quietly, and she appeared, a woman of graceful composure, wrapped in silks that gleamed like moonlight on water. She was not the maid. No, she was the sheikh's guest, the one whose presence had stirred rumors and fanned the whispers like desert flames. Her name was Layla. Her eyes met the Sheikh's across the room, steady and unyielding. The weight between them was palpable, a mixture of challenge, resentment, and something unspoken that neither dared name yet. "You summoned me," she said softly, her voice a silk thread weaving through the tension. "I heard the news." The Sheikh's jaw tightened. "The web of deceit is deeper than any of us feared. This changes everything." Layla stepped forward, her gaze dropping to the maid, who still stood composed, a faint smile playing on her lips. "She sees what others cannot. Your empire's survival may rest on a thread for the first time." The Sheikh's mind raced. 11 lawyers had failed him. The palace whispered betrayal. And yet, the fragile thread of hope now rested upon 2 women, one humble, one of noble bearing, both bearing secrets that could topple kings or crown them anew. He weighed the consequences. If this conspiracy was true, it meant enemies within his walls, enemies cloaked in loyalty and silk. He looked at Layla with new eyes, eyes searching for an ally in a maze of shadows. She was more than a guest. She was a puzzle he'd tried to solve with cautious distance. Now, perhaps, she held a piece of the solution. Turning back to the maid, he said quietly, "You have earned my trust tonight." Her steady eyes met his, unafraid. "I only want to protect what is just, Your Highness." In that moment, the palace seemed to shift, a quiet tremor beneath the veneer of power, a fragile alliance forming in the silence between opulence and danger. The Sheikh moved to a side table and poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. He handed one to Layla without a word. Her fingers brushed his briefly, a spark that neither ignored nor admitted. Outside, the wind carried soft whispers through the palace corridors, stirring the heavy air. Somewhere deep within the desert, secrets slept under the stars, waiting. The Sheikh's voice was low but resolute. "We must find the traitor before they strike again, and we must do so together." Layla lifted her glass. "Together, then." The clink echoed like a promise. But as the door clicked shut behind the maid, the sound of hurried footsteps approached from the shadows, barely audible, but charged with urgency. A messenger, breathless and pale, bowed before the Sheikh. "Your Highness, a message from the northern border. There has been an attack, a raid. The details are disturbing." The Sheikh's eyes narrowed, a storm brewing beneath the surface. He exchanged a glance with Layla, tension spiraling into determination. "The threats are no longer confined within these walls," he murmured. "The desert itself has turned against us." And in the flicker of candlelight, a cold fear took root. The kingdom's battles were only just beginning. The messenger's words hung in the air like a frozen dagger. The billionaire Sheikh's eyes, usually sharp and unyielding, darkened with a storm that threatened to break free. The raid at the northern border was no mere skirmish. It was a declaration, an unrelenting threat that shattered any illusion of peace. Within his realm, Layla's gaze sharpened, the flicker of concern in her eyes betraying the calm mask she wore so effortlessly. Together, They stood amid the grandeur of the marble hall, the weight of betrayal and sudden violence pressing down upon them with crushing intensity. The Sheikh's fingers curled tightly around the crystal glass as he absorbed the news. His mind raced, calculating the layers of deceit now weaving through every corner of his kingdom. The alliance within the palace was fragile, and the threat beyond its walls was merciless. "We cannot afford hesitation," he finally spoke, voice low but commanding, echoing through the cavernous chamber. "Prepare the guards. Dispatch riders to secure the borders. Find every whisper that could lead us to the traitor behind this." Layla stepped closer, her silk dress whispering against the polished floor, a subtle yet potent symbol of elegance and strength. And what of the maid? Her insight has exposed the betrayal within. She may yet hold the key to unmasking those who plot against you. The Sheikh's gaze flickered to the silent figure who had ignited hope where all others had failed. The maid stood steadfast, her composure unshaken by the weight of the moment. She was more than a servant. She was an unexpected guardian of truths buried beneath layers of luxury and lies. "Summon her," he ordered. The air tightened, every breath drawn heavy with anticipation. As the maid entered once more, the flickering candlelight cast long shadows, tracing every line of her face marked by quiet resilience. The Sheikh regarded her, not as a servant, but as a partner in a battle that could determine the fate of an empire. "What have you learned since we last spoke?" he demanded. She met his gaze unwaveringly. "The conspirators are clever. Their moves are calculated, blending loyalty with treachery so skillfully that even the closest allies seem suspect. But I have noticed something, a pattern in their communications, a hidden thread linking their actions." Her voice was steady, but carried a spark that ignited a flicker of hope in the Sheikh's heart. He leaned forward, hunger in his gaze. "Show me." With quiet authority, she unfurled a parchment, marked with coded symbols and hastily scrawled letters. A cipher only decipherable to those who dared delve deeper than surface betrayals. Her fingers traced under the cover of night, between the rival emirate and a faction within his own court. Layla watched silently, her expression inscrutable, as the maid revealed secrets that threatened to upend the fragile order. The air between the three was electric, charged with a silent understanding that the palace's walls no longer protected them. They were part of the war itself. The billionaire Sheikh's voice broke the heavy silence. "Gather the trusted. We move at dawn. If the enemy hides within, we will flush them out before their poison spreads." The maid nodded, no hint of fear in her steadfast eyes. She moved to the window, gazing out at the endless desert sands glittering beneath the moonlight. A kingdom seemingly eternal, yet now trembling on the edge of peril. Footsteps echoed softly behind them. The door swung open, revealing a tall figure cloaked in midnight blue, his presence commanding and unmistakably familiar. It was Rashid, the Sheikh's most loyal general, his brow furrowed with urgency. "Your Highness," Rashid announced, voice grave, "reports confirm that the attackers are unlike any we have seen. Mercenaries wielding unknown weapons. Their tactics suggest inside knowledge. We must act swiftly. The chandelier above cast fractured light upon Rashid's stern features, emphasizing the tension etching his every move. The room seemed to shrink as the gravity of the threat settled deeper. The Sheikh's heart pounded, not just from the threat of war, but from the complex betrayal that seeped through the veins of his court. His world, once meticulously ordered, now cracked at its foundations. Layla stepped beside him, her fingers brushing his arm in a fleeting touch that spoke volumes. It was a reminder that amid storms of steel and deception, something fragile and powerful fought to survive. Trust. But the Sheikh's mind drifted to the Maid, the unexpected shield between ruin and salvation. Her courage and insight had pierced through veils of lies, but how much more could she bear before the darkness swallowed her light? He looked toward Layla, his voice a low rumble. Can we trust those closest to us? Or have shadows already swallowed the palace? Her answer was a whisper, almost lost beneath the distant howling desert wind. Trust must be earned anew, Your Highness, but together we might still turn the tide. A sudden sharp rap at the door broke the moment. The maid's composure shattered for a brief heartbeat as an urgent face appeared in the doorway. Zara, the palace's head of intelligence, her eyes wide and troubled. Your Highness, Zara gasped, there's been another breach. This time, within the palace walls. A message, hidden for you. The Sheikh's pulse thundered in his ears as Zara handed him a sealed scroll, its wax emblem cracked, an unmistakable sign of defiance. With trembling hands, the Billionaire Sheikh broke the seal. The letter's words burned into his soul, revealing the deepest betrayal yet. Someone close, cloaked in loyalty, orchestrated every move to dismantle his reign from within. Eyes blazing with fire and disbelief, he met Layla's gaze, the room shrinking around them, the distant desert wind whispering threats and promises alike. We are not just fighting for a kingdom, he said, voice breaking through the silence, but for the very truth of who stands at our side and who wields the dagger behind our backs. Outside, the night seemed to darken, swallowing the stars, a sign that the battles yet to come would test every bond, every secret, every breath taken within the palace's golden walls. And far away, in the shadows cast by ancient dunes, a figure watched, smiling with cold certainty. The game had only just begun. The scroll's sealing wax crumbled as the Billionaire Sheikh's fingers trembled, betraying the storm roiling inside him. The letter's ink traced a path of treachery, so close it cut like a blade. A betrayal not from some distant rival, but from within, the very soul of his court. Whispers of loyalty had masked poison, and now the golden walls of the palace felt colder than the desert midnight outside. His dark eyes snapped toward Layla, who stood rooted but guarded, the faintest quiver in her usually composed gaze betraying the gravity of the revelation. Between them, the air seethed with unspoken fears, a fragile alliance forged in secrets and necessity, yet shadowed by suspicion. The traitor, the Sheikh's voice cracked, but burned with fury, walks among us still. His breath hitched as the weight of his lineage pressed anew on his shoulders. A legacy built on trust shattered in a single perfidious stroke. Layla stepped forward, her delicate fingers curling around the crystals of her glass, as if anchoring herself to reality. "We must act swiftly, Your Highness. Delay will only tighten their grip." Her voice was steel veiled in silk, offering strength even as uncertainty danced in. Her eyes. Outside the chamber, the distant hum of the palace settled uneasily, as if the very stones held their breath. The maid, steady and resolute, stepped close to the sheikh, her shadow merging with his beneath the flickering chandeliers. "What have you uncovered since last we spoke?" he demanded, the usual imperious command softened by desperation. Her gaze met his, unwavering. "The conspirators communicate with shadows, coded messages, midnight meetings. I have traced a pattern hidden beneath the palace's facade. They are near." The sheikh's expression darkened, the sharp lines of his face etched with sleepless nights and battles not yet fought. "Then we will flush them out." His voice dropped to a growl, filled with both menace and hope. "Gather our most loyal. No one leaves these walls without my knowledge." Layla moved beside him, their shoulders almost touching. A silent gesture that spoke volumes amid the swirling tides of mistrust. She whispered, and the maid's insight, "It may be the key." The sheikh glanced at the maid, her simple dress a stark contrast to the glittering opulence that surrounded them. Once invisible, her quiet intelligence now made her a sentinel in the heart of his kingdom. Before he could respond, the heavy doors creaked once more. Rashid entered, the sheen of sweat on his brow reflecting the urgency behind his words. "Your Highness," he announced gravely, "our scouts report strange movements near the southern oasis. Mercenaries again. Their tactics, they bear the mark of those who know our every step." The room seemed to darken as the scale of the threat grew. The desert, which had been both sanctuary and hardship through centuries, now seemed a battlefield wide open. The sheikh's fingers clenched around the armrest. His voice, low and steady, cut through the thick silence. "Prepare the guards. Seal every exit. We cannot let the serpent strike twice." Layla caught his eye, her lips curving into a tentative smile. "Together, we will expose the shadow and the traitor." He studied her, the woman who had emerged from whispered rumors into an unexpected ally. Beneath her silk and poise was a fierce determination mirrored in his own heart, a rare connection forged in the crucible of crisis. The maid remained poised, cheeks flushed, but eyes blazing with newfound purpose. "I have another thread," she said softly, unfolding a piece of vellum marked with cryptic symbols. "This cipher links the mercenaries to someone inside. A contact, a facilitator." The sheikh leaned closer, hunger and hope warring within his gaze. "Name him." The maid hesitated, then whispered a name that echoed like a thunderclap. "Jamal." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Jamal, the trusted advisor whose smile had always held a secret. Layla's eyes narrowed, as if stabbing through layers of deception. "He has hidden poison beneath his charm." The sheikh's jaw tightened. Betrayal so intimate, cut deeper than any war beyond the walls. Every alliance felt fragile, every loyalty suspect. Suddenly, a sharp rap drew their attention. The doors swung open to reveal Zara, her face pale but resolute. "Your Highness, there's been a disruption in the eastern wing, a breach near the treasury." Her voice trembled. "It appears the traitor acted." Again, the Sheikh's breath hitched. The walls closed in, shadows creeping closer. He stood then, regal and fierce, the embodiment of a kingdom's heartbeat. No more mistakes. Every corner will be watched, every whisper hunted. Layla stepped beside him, their fingers grazing in a brief, charged touch that neither pulled away from nor sought. It was a silent vow. Through storms of steel and deceit, they would stand united. Outside, the desert wind howled, carrying sand and secrets alike. Somewhere, beneath endless stars, the wheels of destiny turned with cruel precision. The Sheikh's voice broke the mounting silence. "Bring Jamal before me. Tonight, the mask falls." But as the heavy doors closed behind Zara, a shadow detached itself from the darkened corridor, a figure cloaked in midnight, eyes gleaming with cold calculation. A smile curved on lips, touched by the frost of betrayal. The game was no longer just for power. It was a war for the soul of the empire itself. The weight of the sealed scroll felt unbearable in the Billionaire Sheikh's hands. As the fragments of wax slipped away, a cold dread settled deep in his chest, an ancient ache born from betrayal's cruel sting. Those trusted faces, the ones who had pledged undying loyalty, now shadowed by deceit, twisted the very foundations of his empire. He met Layla's gaze, searching, for a flicker of guilt, for a sign. Instead, he found the same fierce determination mirrored back. Their fragile alliance, woven in secrets and necessity, was now the last fragile thread holding a kingdom from unraveling. "The traitor walks among us," his voice broke through the silence, low, edged with fury and disbelief. It was a confession of defeat and a call to arms. Layla stepped forward, steady, a warrior, cloaked in silk and grace. "Delay is death, Your Highness. We must move before the venom spreads." Her whispered words carried weight heavier than gold. The grand chamber felt suffocating, the ornate carvings on the marble pillars seeming to close in. The Maid's silhouette merged with the Sheikh's beneath the flickering chandeliers, their unity silent and profound. "What have you uncovered since last we spoke?" he asked, voice rough with need. Her steady eyes met his, unwavering and sharp. The conspirators weave their darkness in shadows, a network of coded messages, secret rendezvous under moonless nights. I have mapped their steps, a hidden trail inside this palace's heartbeat. They are closer than we dare imagine. His face hardened, every line a monument to sleepless nights and battles yet to come. "We will root them out." Layla's presence beside him was a quiet force, their shoulders nearly touching, in a vow that transcended words. Her insight, she nodded toward the Maid, is the key. A gust of desert wind brushed the open windows, carrying the scent of jasmine and impending storm. Before the Sheikh could speak again, the doors swung open. Rashid, the unwavering general, entered swiftly, sweat gleaming on his furrowed brow. His expression bore the weight of grim news. "Your Highness," Rashid said, voice steady but urgent. Scouts report unusual movement near the southern oasis. Mercenaries, armed unlike any seen before. Their strategy betrays intimate knowledge of our defenses. The room darkened with the gravity of his words. The desert, once sanctuary and steadfast ally, now a crucible of war. The Sheikh's hand clenched the arm of his throne. Seal the gates. Mobilize every guard. No one leaves until I say. Layla's eyes met his, and a flicker of a smile softened her lips. Together, we expose the shadow that threatens us. The maid stepped forward, the calm center in the tempest swirling around them. Her cheeks carried a faint flush, but her eyes burned with resolve. There is more. A cipher I have been unraveling, a hidden bond between mercenaries and a traitor inside our walls. She unfurled a piece of fragile vellum, covered in cryptic symbols and hurried scrawls. Her fingers traced the secret threads binding treason and violence. The sheikh leaned closer, hunger and hope battling within his dark gaze. Name the betrayer. The maid's voice was quiet, but it cut through the chamber like a blade. Jamal. A murmur ran through the room. Jamal, the trusted advisor known for his disarming smile and subtle influence, now named at the core of the conspiracy. Layla's eyes sharpened to daggers. His venom has been hidden beneath smooth words and false loyalty. The sheikh's jaw clenched so tightly the muscles twitched. Intimate betrayal was a poison far deadlier than any dagger. Suddenly, a sharp knock shattered the charged silence. Zara, head of intelligence, appeared at the door, pallid but determined. "Your Highness," she gasped, breathless. "There's been a breach in the eastern wing, near the treasury. The traitor has struck once more. The walls, once pillars of strength, seemed to close in as shadows crept nearer. Rising, regal and fierce, the sheikh's voice sent ripples through the tense air. No mistake goes unnoticed now. Every corridor, every secret passage will be watched, every whisper hunted." Layla stepped beside him, their fingers briefly brushing, a silent oath amid chaos. The desert winds outside howled louder, carrying stories of sand and blood. The maid's gaze followed the unseen horizon. "I have traced another clue," she said softly, her frame silhouetted against the moonlit tapestry of stars. "The traitor moves like a ghost, leaving footprints too faint for most, but not for those who watch the shadows." The sheikh's dark eyes glimmered with renewed fire, but also with a vulnerability he rarely showed. "The past is a shadow," he whispered, "but tomorrow we cast a light so fierce it will burn through every lie." Layla's hand found his arm again, their connection a quiet rebellion against the storm. "Then we ready the palace for dawn. The traitor will face the reckoning they so arrogantly deny." The air thickened with anticipation. Behind opulent walls, rich with gold and history, the battle for the soul of the empire had only begun. And as the first glimmers of dawn stretched across the desert horizon, an unseen figure watched from the shadows, lips curled in a chilling smile, a puppet master confident the final act was near. The palace doors creaked shut, echoing like a death knell. The game was no longer just for power. It was a dance with destiny, and the stakes were more personal than ever. Somewhere, deep within the heart of the emirate, a whisper slipped through the opulent silence. Not all who wear loyalty are free of betrayal. The weight of betrayal pressed down on the billionaire sheikh. Every breath, a battle against the suffocating doubt that now veiled the palace. Jamal's name echoed in the silent chamber like a poisoned dagger twisted deep into the heart of his empire. The man who once smiled with the warmth of brotherhood now hid a venomous intent beneath silk words. His fingers tightened around the armrests as the cold truth settled like icy sand. The opulence around him, the shimmering gold, the fragrant frankincense, the glimmering crystal chandeliers offered no comfort. Power had long isolated him, but tonight it felt like a gilded cage fractured from within. Layla's presence beside him, a steady flame in the dark, brought a fragile comfort amid the chaos. Her fingers found his arm again, a silent promise that despite the storm, they would face the enemy together. Her eyes searched his, reflecting both the weight of their shared peril and a fierce determination to fight for what was just. The palace itself breathes deceit, Layla whispered, her gaze sharp as desert thorns. We must cleanse it before the poison spreads any further. The maid, once unseen among splendor and silk, now stood boldly at the heart of the storm. Her voice, steady and calm, cut through the tension. Jamal's reach extends beyond whispered conversations. He commands shadows disguised as friendship, weaving a web that spans from council chambers to the dusty borders of our land. The Sheikh's eyes narrowed. And you have proof? She nodded, unfurling another delicate parchment streaked with intricate codes and hastily marked symbols. Her fingers traced their paths with measured precision, each mark a clue revealing the traitor's network. Before the room could digest the revelation, the heavy oak doors creaked open once more. Rashid entered, his bearing sharp and grim as the desert sun. Sweat clung to his brow, the urgency in his voice shattering the already fragile calm. Your Highness, scouts confirm unusual activity at our southern pass. Mercenaries, far better armed and disciplined than common raiders. Their tactics betray intimate knowledge, likely supplied by the insider you named. A ripple of tension surged through the grand hall, mingling with the scent of jasmine drifting in from the moonlit gardens. The desert's vast. Silence outside now felt menacing, as if the very sands conspired against the empire's heart. The sheikh rose with deliberate grace, a lion roused to fierce defense. Seal every gate, double the night watch. Jamal's betrayal will cost him dearly if caught within these walls. Layla bent slightly, her silk dress cascading like midnight waves as she whispered, "And if he escapes justice, the desert will be far less forgiving." A single nod was his answer, the unspoken bond between them crystallizing stronger. Yet beneath the surface, shadows gathered, doubts and fears that no armor could hide. The maid stepped forward once again, her gaze unwavering, despite the storm raging around them. There is one more thing. The patterns of communication suggest a secret meeting tonight. A gathering where the final move against the sheikh will be made. The room grew colder, the crystal chandeliers casting fractured reflections on faces etched with suspicion and dread. "Where?" the Sheikh demanded. "In the ancient bathhouse," she replied softly, "now rarely used, away from prying eyes." Layla's eyes flickered with a plan forming like lightning in a desert storm. "Then we must act swiftly. Assemble those we trust. Tonight, the shadows will be drawn into the light." The palace, a fortress of gold and whispered promises, suddenly seemed fragile beneath the urgent pulse of impending betrayal. The Sheikh swallowed, the weight of leadership heavier than ever. "Prepare the guards. I want no one unaccounted for after sunset. And summon Jamal. Tonight, his true face will be revealed." As the maid bowed and slipped quietly from the chamber, Layla lingered a moment longer, her voice a tender thread amidst the tension. "Remember, Your Highness, even the brightest swords can be blunted by the softest touch. Trust carefully." His dark eyes met hers, the fierce pride of a ruler softening into something more vulnerable, a need for connection amid the cold wars of power. Outside the window, the desert wind stirred again, carrying with it the distant call of unseen ravens and the faint murmur of secrets waiting to be unearthed. The golden glow within the palace flickered, shadows lengthening as night deepened. In the labyrinth beyond, unseen eyes watched, waiting for the moment to strike. And somewhere, hidden in silence, Jamal smiled, a smile as cold and sharp as the blade he dared to wield behind his patron's back. The game had reached a deadly turning point. The Sheikh's empire trembled on the edge of ruin, and as the first stars blinked against the velvet sky, one truth remained clear. No one within those walls was truly safe. The heavy doors closed with a muted thud, sealing the chamber in a silence thick with dread and determination. The air, once perfumed with jasmine and frankincense, now felt charged, as if the very walls held their breath against the storm brewing within. The Billionaire Sheikh stood tall, regal yet visibly burdened. His sharp gaze darted between Layla and the maid, two women whose presence had upended the foundations of his world. His fingers clenched into fists at his sides, nails digging subtly into the silk of his robes, a rare sign of the turmoil beneath his composed exterior. "Jamal," he murmured, the name tasting bitter on his tongue. The trusted advisor, whose smile had once promised loyalty, now coated in shadow. How deep does this betrayal run? The maid's steady eyes held her silent response. Then, in a voice both calm and resolute, she stepped forward, unfurling a delicate parchment. The cryptic symbols and hastily scrawled ciphers spilled secrets, threads in a web she had been unraveling in the quiet hours when others slept, unaware. "The mercenaries are only part of a larger scheme," she revealed, tracing a pattern that wove from the palace's hidden passageways to far-flung lands outside the emirate. Jamal's reach extends beyond these walls. Nightly meetings, coded messages, and a string of accomplices I've yet to fully identify. Layla's eyes darkened with resolve. If we do not act swiftly, the poison will seep through every vein of this empire. We must cut it out before it kills us all. A flicker of tension rippled through the vast hall, as Rashid, the loyal general, entered. His expression grave beneath furrowed brows, damp with sweat. His presence was a stark reminder of the growing dangers beyond the palace's gilded walls. "Your Highness," he reported breathlessly, "scouts confirm increased activity along the southern border. The mercenaries advance with precision, their formations unlike any raiders we've faced before. We believe they are being guided by one of our own." The Sheikh's dark eyes, so often cold and unyielding, now flickered with the fire of a man pushed to the brink. "Then their plans must be thwarted before dawn. Mobilize the guards. I want every post manned and every shadow monitored." Layla moved closer to the Sheikh, her silken gown whispering against the marble, a contrast to the steel in her voice. "Tonight, we expose the traitor. The palace will no longer be their playground." The maid's gaze drifted to the towering windows, where the desert's midnight blue stretched infinitely beneath a blanket of stars. The vast sands held secrets older than any throne, but tonight they whispered a warning that even the desert's silence could not drown. "The secret meeting, the one I've discovered, it will take place in the ancient bathhouse," she said softly. "A place long forgotten, shielded by whispers and shadows." The Sheikh's jaw clenched. "Then we strike there. No hesitation, no mercy." Layla's fingers brushed his arm, a fleeting touch charged with unspoken promises and fragile trust. "We stand together in this, with eyes open and swords ready." From the shadows, a faint sound shattered the fragile calm, a hurried knock at the chamber door. Zara, head of intelligence, entered swiftly, her face pale and etched with worry. "Your Highness," she gasped, "there's been another breach near the treasury. The traitor moves swiftly, leaving chaos in their wake." The air thickened, tensions swirling like desert sand caught in a sudden gust. The palace, once a sanctuary of gold and whispered power, now felt like a battleground where every ally could wear the mask of an enemy. The Sheikh took a slow, controlled breath, rising with the dignity of a lion ready to defend his den. His voice, low and commanding, shattered the gloom. "No one moves without my knowledge. Seal every exit. The traitor will not elude justice." His eyes scanned every figure in the room. Layla poised with quiet strength, the maid whose keen insight had rekindled hope, and Rashid, the steadfast guardian of the Emirate's honor. "Prepare our forces," he continued. "We hunt in the dark, but we will bring the light." Layla stepped beside him, their energies intertwining like a fragile dynasty forged in desperation and need. "We will unmask him before he strikes again." As the room tensed, the maid hesitated briefly, then produced another slip of parchment, the true turning point. Her finger landed on a name, scrawled beneath coded lines, the identity of the traitor's messenger. "Another link," she whispered. "The chains tighten, Your Highness. We are closer than they believe." The Sheikh's eyes narrowed, shadows playing across his face. "Reveal the name." "Yasir," she breathed. A ripple passed through the room. Yasir, the trusted courier, whose loyalty was assumed beyond question. The walls seemed to close in. The game was no longer just between kings and rivals. It was a war of shadows within shadows. trust weaponized and betrayal woven into every corner. A sudden gust stirred the heavy silk curtains, the scent of desert jasmine mixing with the metallic tang of approaching bloodshed. The palace, resplendent and fragile, was a crucible set to ignite. Layla's voice broke the silence, soft yet resolute. We stand on the edge of ruin or glory. Tonight decides which. The Sheikh's gaze hardened, a flicker of vulnerability, masked by the imperious mask of a ruler forged in fire and gold. We face enemies in halls and deserts alike, he said, voice hoarse but unyielding. And the one who poisons from within will be revealed, come dawn. Outside, the desert night whispered secrets to the stars, carrying the promise of battles yet to come, and the silent oath of a kingdom fighting for its very soul. But in a shadowed corner of the palace, unseen eyes gleamed cold with satisfaction. A soft, cruel smile, curved lips rehearsing a victory only the dawn could challenge. The trap was set, and the snakes already closed their coils. The billionaire Sheikh's breath caught, not from fear, but from the understanding that in the game of power, the final move was yet to be made. The chamber felt suffocating, the weight of betrayal pressing into every corner, like the desert's relentless heat. Billionaire Sheikh stood tall, yet visibly worn, his dark eyes shadowed with sleepless nights and unspoken fears. Jamal's name still echoed in the heavy silence, a venomous echo threatening to consume the empire he had guarded with iron will. Layla remained close at his side, a steady flame in the gathering darkness. Her touch lingered just a moment on his arm, silent reassurance that amid treacheries, some alliances could hold firm. But beneath her composed exterior, anxiety simmered, aware that their fragile unity was the last defense against ruin. The maid's presence marked a daring defiance of palace hierarchy. Once invisible amidst opulence and whispers, now she stood at the heart of the storm, her calm voice slicing through doubt and dread. She unfolded a delicate parchment, its cryptic markings, a map to treason, hidden beneath layers of deceit. "The web stretches far, Your Highness," she said softly. "Jamal commands more than sympathy. He speaks in secret codes, moves in shadows, and calls to accomplices still cloaked in disguise." The Sheikh's gaze sharpened, a storm kindling behind the cold mask of power. "Proof, then," he demanded. With steady hands, the maid traced a line through tangled symbols, revealing whispered meetings and coded exchanges beneath moonless nights. The palace itself was a cage of lies, each corridor harboring secrets, waiting to suffocate the truth. Rashid entered abruptly, breath heavy, the furrow in his brow deepened by the urgency in his voice. Scouts confirm hostile activity near the southern border. Mercenaries, trained beyond common raiders. Their tactics betray counsel from within. The air tightened with his words. The desert, ancient guardian, and relentless tester, now seemed a battlefield stretching beyond view. The Sheikh's voice dropped to a growl. "Seal every gate. Double the watch. No one leaves without my knowledge. We will root out this cancer." Layla stepped forward, silk whispering beneath her measured resolve. This palace will no longer be a playground for traitors. Tonight, the shadows will be unmasked. A faint breeze stirred the heavy curtains, carrying jasmine and threat. A maid's gaze fixed on the vast night beyond the windows, where secrets gleamed beneath countless stars. The meeting I uncovered, it takes place tonight in the ancient bathhouse, forgotten by many, shielded by silence and shadow. The Sheikh's jaw clenched tight as the weight of war settled over him. Then we strike first. No hesitation, no mercy. Layla's fingers brushed his arm, a spark flaring between silk and skin, a promise forged in desperation and hope. We face this together, with open eyes and sharpened blades. Before the tension could ease, the chamber door burst open. Zara appeared, pale yet unyielding, the worry sharp in her gaze. "Your Highness," she gasped, "another breach, this time near the treasury. The traitor strikes before we can act." Suffocating dread closed in. The golden walls that had long protected their secrets now felt like glass veils, fragile and cracking beneath pressure. The Sheikh rose fully, the regal lion awakened to defend his den. His voice, low and commanding, shattered the heavy stillness. "No one moves unseen. Seal every passage. We end this tonight." His gaze swept across the room. Layla, poised and unwavering. The maid, whose sharp insight had kindled hope. Rashid, ever the sentinel of their realm's honor. "Prepare the forces. We hunt in the dark, but we bring the light." Layla's hand found his arm again, a tether amidst chaos. "We expose the traitor before another shadow spreads." The maid drew forth another piece of vellum, trembling only slightly. Her fingers circled a name, quiet yet deadly: Yasir. A ripple shot through the room. Yasir, the courier trusted beyond question, now unveiled as the traitor's whisper in the court. The walls seemed to close, the air thick with betrayal's scent. The game unfolded in layers, the metallic sting of impending bloodshed. "We stand on the cusp," Layla said softly. "Tonight decides if this palace burns or survives." The Sheikh's dark eyes, steady yet fierce, met hers. Enemies lurk behind every door, and the poison runs deep. But by dawn, the mask falls. Outside, the desert night presided, vast, silent, and watching, while inside, unseen eyes gleamed with cold satisfaction. A quiet smile curved maddening lips, promising that the final move lay just beyond sight. The palace doors creaked shut once more, and in that moment, all knew the game was no longer about wealth or power. It was about survival. And somewhere, shrouded deep within the labyrinthine halls, the true mastermind whispered in triumph, "This empire is mine to break or to bind." The flicker of candlelight shattered, plunging the room into darkness. The palace was silent under the weight of destiny, its golden halls trembling as the final threads of betrayal unraveled before the billionaire Sheikh's steadfast gaze. Jamal's name echoed in the vast chamber, a shadow cast over the empire's heart. Yet amidst the storm, an unshakable resolve had taken root in the Sheikh's soul. The maid's calm presence stood like a beacon of truth in the gathering darkness. Her quiet strength had illuminated the web of deceit woven within the palace walls. She unfolded the last piece of the puzzle, a tapestry of coded messages and hidden meetings, the proof that would bring the traitor's mask crashing down. Layla's gaze remained fixed on the sheik, her hand lightly pressing his arm, a silent reminder that together they were unbreakable. In her eyes burned the fierce conviction of a woman who had journeyed through suspicion and near despair, only to find hope blossoming in unexpected alliances. Tonight, the Sheikh's voice resonated deep and commanding. We reclaim not just our empire, but the trust that betrayal almost stole. We will no longer cower in the shadows. Outside, the desert winds whispered faintly through the palace, carrying the promise of dawn, of new beginnings forged from the ashes of hardship. The secret meeting at the ancient bathhouse awaited their arrival. The place, long abandoned and veiled in silence, now held the sinister heartbeat of treason. Yet within its marble confines, the dance between light and shadow would reach its decisive crescendo. Guarded by Rashid's loyal forces, the Sheikh, Layla, and the Maid stepped into the cool night, each pulse quickened by the burden of the night's stakes. Every step echoed the unspoken promise to protect what was just, to expel the poison that threatened to consume their world. As the corridor stretched ahead, tension coiled tight like a drawn bow. The walls, draped in shadows, seemed to hold their breath. In the hush of that sacred silence, the confrontation ignited. Jamal stood at the center of the chamber, his once warm smile twisted beneath the harsh light of revelation. The poison that had silently seeped through his words now spilled in the open, a venomous torrent laid bare by the maid's unwavering determination. You underestimated the strength of those you sought to destroy, the Sheikh declared, his voice etched with righteous fury, yet tempered by a newfound mercy. His eyes, dark and piercing, held a fire that scorched away deceit. Jamal's facade cracked, revealing the depth of his ambition and the bitterness born of envy. But before his whispered defense could rise, Layla stepped forward, her posture regal, unwavering. "The empire is more than gold and power," she said softly. "It is built on trust, honor, and the bonds we forge in storms like this." The maid's eyes met Jamal's, steady and unafraid. No treachery can thrive where truth shines fiercely. With the full weight of evidence before them, Jamal's schemes collapsed like dry sand in the desert wind. The palace, once cloaked in shadows, breathed again with the hope of renewal. The Sheikh extended a hand, not as a ruler above a defeated foe, but as a man choosing the path of forgiveness. "Your betrayal wounds deeply, but it will not break us. Justice will be served, and mercy will guide our way forward." Jamal's shoulders slumped, the fight draining as realization settled. The empire would endure, more resilient for the trials it had faced. As the first hues of dawn brushed the eastern horizon, the trio emerged from the ordeal transformed. The palace, bathed in soft gold light, seemed to exhale centuries of tension and strife. In the quiet courtyard, flowers stirred gently, their petals unfolding like promises kept. The Sheikh turned to Layla, his expression softened by relief and gratitude. "Without your strength, your presence, this night would have ended in ruin. Layla's smile was radiant, a warm glow that touched even the chill of past fears. "We are stronger together than apart, Your Highness. In unity, we find our true power." The maid, now a trusted guardian rather than a mere servant, stood nearby with a serene smile, a symbol of loyalty transcending status, a reminder that true greatness often hides in humble hearts. Later, within the palace's sunlit embrace, the halls that had echoed with suspicion now resounded with laughter and renewed hope. The court gathered, their faces edged with respect and admiration, a family reunited by trials overcome. The sheikh, once a solitary lion encased in silk and gold, embraced the gentle revolution within himself. His hardened exterior softened as he lifted Layla's hand in a tender vow, one that promised not only love, but partnership, trust, and shared dreams. The past's shadows receded beneath. The steady light of forgiveness and growth, the empire, vast and glittering as the desert stars, stood reborn, not just through peace restored, but through hearts melded by trials and triumphs. As the sun cast its golden warmth upon the palace's domes, the sheikh and Layla looked beyond, to a future ripe with promise. Hand in hand, they walked toward that dawn, two souls forged by fire and bound by a love that would endure any storm. In the distance, the desert whispered a gentle blessing, embracing the emirate in its timeless embrace. A new chapter began, radiant and unbroken, and in that light, the billionaire sheikh finally found the peace and happiness he had sought so fervently, not in riches or power, but in the hearts of those who dared to stand with him.